Hello everyone, my name is Lingchao and I'd like to share our recent study entitled Neuromechanical Coordination Strategies in Anticipatory and Reactive Step-Aside Movements, Secondary Analysis. Let me start with a bit of background. Step-aside movements are essential for maintaining dynamic balance and preventing falls in daily life. However, these movements place substantial demands on the ankle muscles, particularly the tibialis anterior, peroneus longus, and soleus, as well as on ground reaction force and central pressure modulation. Previous studies have compared self-initiated and stimulus-driven movements, but mainly in simple and single-joint tasks. So far, biomechanical differences in complex obstacle avoidance step-aside movements have not been systematically examined. This gap motivated our study. Therefore, we aimed to compare neuromechanical coordination strategies between anticipatory and reactive step-aside movements, both during standing and walking condition. To address this, we conducted a secondary analysis based on our previous experiments. 45 healthy young male participants' data were recruited for this study, and there are 4 groups: planned step-aside movements during standing, which is SASP, versus unpredictable step-aside movements during standing, which is SASU, and planned step-aside movements during walking, which is SAWP, versus unpredictable step-aside movements during walking, which is SAWU. In this analysis, we examined the time series data of electromyography, ground reaction force, and central pressure displacement. We focused on both pushing and loading legs, and we applied the one-dimensional statistical parametric mapping as known as SPM1D to identify temporal and biomechanical differences that distinguish anticipatory from reactive control. Next, let's move on to the results. During quiet standing, the SASU produced an earlier and sharper increase in the pushing leg GRF, you can see here, and following by a faster decline, indicating a more abrupt and forceful push-off compared with planned condition. And the COP shifted forward earlier and more rapidly, you can see here, which is suggesting a toe dominant propulsion strategy under reactive conditions. Moreover, EMG signals, especially from the peroneus longus, you can see here, show the earlier and stronger activation even before measurable force changes occurred. During walking, the reactive condition showed a delayed peak in EMG and GRF and a prolonged stance phase compared with the anticipatory condition. This delay in both pushing and loading legs indicates slower transition timing and reduced temporal efficiency, creating a potential high-risk interval for balance loss during reactive movements. In other words, when a person must respond suddenly to an unpredictable obstacle while walking, there is a short but important moment where balance control becomes less effective. In summary, first of all, we found a delay in reactive walking conditions, which created a critical high fall risk interval. Secondly, our findings highlight distinct neuromechanical strategies between anticipatory and reactive step-aside movements. Finally, we emphasized the need for comprehensive training approaches For example, using immersive virtual reality environments that combine agility drills and trail and aero practice. Such training could help shorten or better utilize this high risk window, reducing fall incidents in older adults or other at risk populations. Thanks for your attention. Bye.